25, if you still write that on a check somewhere, if you're young and vibrant and like Valley ATN, who just came in here this morning, then you don't have to worry about any of that. If you're old and decrepit like I am, I write that on my checks all the time, okay, because I still like to put a pen to paper. Just me.
I had something happen.
Go ahead. Tell me.
In the history of the show.
All right.
Which
today is our 17th day, by the way.
This is going to go down.
Go ahead.
It's so funny. I was trying to call Jeff Coleman.
Right.
And you would give me the wrong number. We just transposed a number.
Yeah.
So I just called this number, and it rang and rang and rang, and I just hung up because I knew it was right away when Jeff didn't answer. So we're trying to figure out what the right number is.
Right.
And the phone rings.
Yeah.
Now, has this phone ever rung?
It did now. It's obnoxious.
Yes, it is obnoxious.
It's obnoxious.
Daryl warned us, but
Yes,
it had not rung when our mics are off. So we hadn't actually heard it until just a few moments ago. It was the person who I had called.
Right.
So the first call
Did you make a new friend?
that we got with the mics off to hear the phone ring was a wrong number.
Okay. So
that doesn't happen every day.
Did you make a new friend?
I think I did.
I mean, you had an opportunity there to,
I was kind of busy.
Well, I know, like doing about 15 things, but I mean, still, there ought to be a little room there to make a new friend every day, like Jeff Coleman, who is the principal of Churchill Strategies, who also is the co-host of Morning Light on the Lighthouse Channel, and who joins us every Wednesday morning, whether he likes it or not, right here on our show. Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good morning, and I am glad we are friends.
Oh, well, we are. I am. And you get drug kicking and screaming in here every week. But no, we're kidding. We're kidding. We have a great time. But, of course, you're the co-host of Morning Light with Deborah Pinkerton, and it's on 9 o'clock to, I guess you're still, 9:30 every day?
Until 9:30.
Until 9:30. And it's kind of like you watch these shows on TV like NBC, The Morning Show, and all those kind of things. But it's through a whole different lens, a Christian perspective. It's really a neat show. I've been on it a bunch of times. I got to tell you, I'm fascinated when I always stick around to the end. I sit off in the corner of the room and watch the rest of the show because they have so many great subjects. But it's fun to watch. You can watch it right here locally on Channel 49, and just a great show. So there, I gave you enough cred on that this morning. But you're also the principal of Churchill Strategies, a former legislator here in the state of Pennsylvania, a father of four. A husband of one, and there you go. So all of those things to introduce Jeff Coleman this morning. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Gary. Thank you for that.
Well, it's great to have you in. I put a question out today that I thought was just kind of interesting, and it was this. When it comes to policy in the present moment in the United States, what is the message that President Trump is selling to the people, and what is the message that the Democratic Party is selling to the American people? And I don't really have an answer in mind on that, but I wonder what your thoughts might be on that this morning as we kind of consider that.
Well, I think the policy for President Trump this moment is not ideological, meaning it's not conservative, it's not liberal. It is really the message of who's in charge, that government has failed and I am going to fix it, and nothing is sacred. And that includes our foreign policy, that includes our alliances. Everything is on the table. So probably returning in a real way to real estate negotiation, and that is a different stance or a different posture than any other president before. So that it makes it difficult, I think, for people who are in government or who are covering government, and that's probably the idea.
If you're the Democratic Party right now, what's your message? Obviously, you're on, the side of the minority because of the election results. That's all it is. But what should it be right now from a positive standpoint? If you were giving him some advice, they just got a brand new leader this past week, Ken Martin from Minnesota, who's now the chairman of the Democratic Party. But I wonder what the message should be right now that would resonate with the American people.
Well, I don't think there is one. I don't think there is. I don't think the Democrats have any messaging option, at least in the traditional sense. There isn't a way, for example, to put together a platform of 5 points and say, here's what we're going to stick to, and every day we're going to go to the microphones and talk about it, and all of our elected officials are going to say the same thing. That would be the normal playbook. We're in abnormal times. this morning, for example, we're talking about the takeover of Gaza and converting it into kind of a resort community and relocating Palestinians somewhere to maybe Egypt or Jordan. That's a proposal that I think even stunned Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday, although he was very gracious in the way he responded to it. But if you're the Democrats and you wake up to that headline or you were watching it, you don't have many options to go. You either come up with a different proposal, which is what I think you probably have to do day to day. You come up with a counter proposal that's bigger or bolder or more unconventional, and then you go to the negotiating table. I don't know that I would advise anybody to try to get lift on a traditional agenda, something like a contract with America or, a 5-point plan.
It's interesting. I was reading the Washington Post, and it said 3 months after losing the White House and the Senate and failing to win a House majority, Democrats remain shell-shocked and off balance. They have yet to fully digest the implications of their loss in November and haven't found their footing in the face of President Donald Trump's aggressive opening moves. I think that's a really interesting statement that, you're looking to say, okay, well, what's our message now? They elected Ken Martin, the chair of the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party this past weekend, as their new leader. But now you've got to somehow, and it's almost like the rest of us. I mean, it's dizzying how fast the policies are coming at us every single day. Like yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu came out and said, well, you know what? Every time Donald Trump talks, your jaw drops, and then you say, well, you know what? Maybe it's not a bad idea, that he's thinking outside the box. What's your take on that?
Well, this is, Donald Trump is living as if this is his last day on Earth. And so every day, right? So you have to live, if you're opposing him, you have to live in the same way, or you've got to come at him full force and really, you can't play in the same sandbox, meaning if you entertain the idea, if you're a Democrat this morning, you entertain the idea that it's a good thing to take over Gaza, and you really are negotiating, well, how many Gazans get to stay, or you try to use a little bit of the leverage that he gave yesterday in the press conference saying, well, some Palestinians would be allowed to stay. If you play there, you've lost because you've agreed to the premise. So you've got to have, I think, you're going to have to look very unconventionally, and in the same way that Donald Trump has snatched up any kind of talent from the corporate business world that was available. Democrats have that same bench. They have the Bill Gateses and the Warren Buffetts and all of that, to be able to draw from. But they need a figure of equal charisma, and you're going to have to go to Hollywood or some unconventional place for that. Look, there's still over half of, 50-some% of Americans that are open to somebody else. But that vacuum is going to stay open. That seat of opposition is going to stay open until they find someone that's compelling in their own way.
I heard another talk show host yesterday, and my jaw almost dropped when they said Donald Trump is similar to Ronald Reagan as a great communicator, and my jaw dropped. And then I stopped and thought for a second. I said, well, he's not the eloquent speaker that Ronald Reagan was, but he is a good communicator in the sense that he says straight what he wants and then kind of does it. I guess that's a good communicator in a different way. What's your take on that, Jeff?
I think President Trump is kind of like a cabbie, but this is a cabbie with power, meaning he's taking you places and he is saying, well, we should get rid of that. They should do something about that. You're driving through the neighborhoods. Why don't they get rid of that building? That's always been a problem. The difference between the cabbie and a president is that the president actually has power. This time, he has learned, for example, that you can offer every CIA agent a buyout and replace the entire agency with people that you like. That's the presidential power. He's testing all that authority. But I think that's the difference. It isn't just somebody saying, get off my lawn.
Right.
It's somebody saying, get off my lawn, but they have a tank to be able to do it with.
And you talk about disruptors. I mean, it's unbelievable. But the thing one of the things that comes out to me, too, have you ever seen an assault by the private sector on the public sector like this, on the government sector? I mean, the assault of private sector people here with Elon Musk, we're not quite sure what his role is.
Right.
He's a volunteer? He's kind of this, he's kind of that. We're seeing this assault. We're seeing, the president going after Canada, Mexico, the Panama Canal. He's getting results, but it's like the bully who just took over Monroe's role here and keeping the doctrine here in this hemisphere, and you wonder what the heck we're trying to get our heads around it, and it's dizzy.
Well, if you go back to Reagan, Reagan did some of these things with the Grace Commission, appointing 150 CEOs of the country to essentially put on the green eye shades and line by line with a highlighter go through and propose an overhaul of government.
Right.
But that was a plan that was executed with a serious long-term kind of design to re-engineer government. The challenge, I think, with this kind of one-off, one man on a white horse approach is that, look, we still have a constitution and we still will have an election.
Yeah. And it's not a suggestion box. It's supposed to be the supreme law of our land, by the way.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we're going to be back at the negotiating table very soon. And because it's so easy to enact executive orders, it's very easy to, as President Biden found out, to repeal executive orders. If you live, you die by executive orders.
The only thing that you see here, Jeff, that's really kind of interesting, we haven't seen, I don't think, someone say, here's what I'm going to do, and then doing it right away and going out there, and it has profound implications on relationships with other countries, profound implications on relationships within our own country with people who are losing jobs and things like that. And it's almost like he's saying, I'm not going to run again. I've got 2 years until the midterms, and I know what happens at midterms traditionally, and I'm going to make sure that I fundamentally change things right now. And I've got this whole group of people. They stood in front of, by the way, the cabinet nominees at the inauguration. All these people like Bezos and Musk and I'm going to get change now, and we're going to put it in place so you can't take it back out, or it's going to become so web entangled that you can't take it back out with an executive orders if you come back in and play that ping pong game we've seen over the last several presidencies. Final thoughts this morning.
Well, I think it's kind of that's half of it. The other half is that, what President Trump is doing is he is executing his promises, but what he's getting back isn't actually the delivery of the promise. Meaning, I'm going to put tariffs on Canada and Mexico, but I'm going to use it to get leverage for something else.
Right.
Not exactly. The trade war, the trade imbalance still exists, but we have troops on the border instead of a balanced, a trade plate. So it's going to be a very long 4 years, very interesting. America will look very different after. But at some point, an opposition does get organized and emerge, and that's the question: is what is the whirlwind that comes after this?
Well, I think Chuck Schumer said the other day he's going to screw up somewhere. We'll wait, and I don't know if you just want to be the anti-Trump party. I think that showed not to be workable anymore in the election, and maybe it's time to get something else there where you're talking the language of the American people in a positive way and offering a positive another agenda there outside of, well, government as it is okay. That's not good enough.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There is room here for somebody who is principled, who looks forward, who is a good planner.
Great point.
But who's also a creative communicator.
Yeah, great point, Jeff. That's a good way to end today, and I hope we can find those kind of people again, whether they're Republicans or Democrats in this whole thing. But it's certainly interesting times. I told Mark this morning, I said, we don't have news hour to hour. We have it minute to minute now. And it's keeping up with it every day is incredible.
Yep, that's right.
Jeff, have a great show this morning. Again, Morning Light. You can find it on Lighthouse TV, 9 to 9:30 every day. Jeff Coleman, Deborah Pinkerton. Deborah, by far and away, is a much better looking of the two, but but Jeff's really nice. So there you go. Hey, my friend, always good talking to you. Thanks so much, and have a great week.
Same to you. Bye, Gary.
Jeff Coleman here on WOYK, The Gary Sutton Show. We'll take a break. We'll come right back at 7:19 on a Wednesday morning. Back with more.